You were created to stand out, to be exceptional, to be unique by design. So welcome to Exceptional Living. Well, hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Exceptional Living. I'm your host, April Ripley, and it is always a pleasure and a privilege to share what I believe are inspirational conversations to help one live an exceptional life. As you know, our purpose is to inform, to inspire, and to ignite the greatness that lies within you. And so this platform shares life-changing concepts, strategic insights, proven tools from local and global thought leaders, innovators, experts in their fields, change agents that will equip you for credible influence, distinguishable competency, and certainly indelible impact in your industry, your life, and your nation. So in a world where one is conditioned to fit in, know that you were created to stand out, to be exceptional, unique by design. And so I'd like to thank all of you who have liked, subscribed, and shared this YouTube channel. And today we have an exciting guest. Phill Mashabane is the principal and owner of Mashabane Rose and Associates. In 1995, Phill co-founded Mashabane Rose Associates, along with the late Jeremy Rose, began a dynamic South African architectural and design studio. With over 30 plus years in the industry and many awards under his belt, Phill Mashabane has expertise in urban planning, urban design, conservation, heritage development, museum design, and storyline developers. His projects have ranged in the residential, commercial, retail, mining, medical, public buildings, and education sectors throughout South Africa and Africa. In 2016, Phill was recognized for his contribution made to the South African professional service industry and was the recipient of a Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in the field of architecture. Some of his builds, of which I have been privileged to see, the Apartheid Museum, Hector Pieterson Museum and Memorial, Robben Island Millenium Museum, Legacy Project, Mandela House Museum, Freedom Park, and the Oprah Winifrey Leadership Academy. Phill is a member of many professional organizations and affiliations, such as the South African Council for Architectural Profession, the South African Institute of Architects, the South African Institute of Arbitrators, and is a board member and director of the Apartheid Museum. His education ranges from Bachelor of Architecture, Diploma in Project Management, accredited mediator with the London School of Mediation, and master negotiator at Harvard University. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very special guest, Mr. Phill Mashabane. Hello, Phill.
Hi. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you for coming on the show today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because of just how we met. And I see you're wearing one of the places, our initial place of meeting, Harvard University.
Yeah.
Yes, we were in the program on negotiation together, and I think it was at one of the breaks. We were just kind of chatting around because the program actually brings persons from all across the world. And it's like, South Africa, yay, I've been there really. And so then when I learned that these amazing buildings, not just because of the architecture of the buildings, but what they represent for the history and the culture and the legacy was like, this is the person who is responsible for designing it all. So I was taken aback, but surely privileged just to meet you. So Phill, tell us a little bit about your journey into architecture and why you chose specifically that field.
Yes. Thank you. My journey is not a straightforward road. It has been informed by a lot of things. When I went to school, it's because I was raised in a rural area where there was a need for built environment activities. And then we often question why can this get done to make the lives of people easy. So that's why the kind of to provide a solution. And to provide a solution, we needed to formally train one way or another so that you should be in sync with the legislative framework of that environment, any other environment which would be influenced by that development. So I went to school, graduated in 1995, where I studied in Paris. And upon returning back home, I was faced with another huge challenge because of the laws applied at the time, which were kind of educational laws. I could not be employed as an architect. I had to work for practice or for business at which I was essentially to all the professionals. And to be correct, I ended up working in the print room, where I print all these drawings and etc. But that was the journey, the first part of the journey. And which led to the second part of my journey. When I worked in South Africa, I started working for this enterprise that which needed to observe the laws of the country. I needed to print drawing from engineer. But when I looked at the drawing, it was a beautiful picture. It was not practically, not good. So I made myself a copy and I started scribbling on it. Lo and behold, fortunately, the person I reported to happened to see that. And when they decided that they would send me to another hearing, based on the fact that I'm almost undermining the work that was produced by a senior engineer, I acceded to that. But upon interrogation, and I had to respond to some of the questions. Having responded, the question that was asked, how do you know so much about designs and construction that I think I can qualify? It has not been my choice in where I am. It was one was seeking employment. When they offered me a position in this office, of course, as the senior resident engineer, I declined it for one simple reason. If I accepted and I worked in this office, there would be more expectations from my participation, which may be beyond what I could deliver. So I resigned on the same day. But moving forward, then I spent a week back in home in South Africa, and then I put my ticket back to Paris. And the idea of going back to Paris was to go back to and register with the law school, so that I should understand the thinking of how policies are made that accommodate and segregate. So I went to Liliesleaf, and I'm not really proud of it because I did not serve the full academic program. In Paris, I graduated from the university. It takes about 4.5 years or 3/4. But I managed to complete the program. Firstly, having a student on the first year, I was already knowledgeable on how law is to be applied. and then a special program by University of Paris, as well as Sorbonne and the Institute of Law. They crafted that document which is usually called Recognition of Firing. When they put that in front of me, of course I passed it to the distinction, unfortunately, for them. And I say this deliberately because the expectations were lower than what I did. And then I was moved on to the second year, on the same year, last year. Then we encountered the same problem, whereby I was the final year student. And of course I passed it. So I finished my law degree in 3 years instead of 4 years. Right. That began to inform me of exactly what is it that you need to do as a person. It's to equip yourself in areas where there are areas or blank areas. That's my approach in life. Yeah. And then coming back, still I went through Africa architect up to a point that in 1995. Still faced with challenge. With 1995 was much better because I was in a position to practice as an architect. I worked for 2 years and established my own practice.
Phill, your journey is inspired in many ways. How you saw where you were, and there was a need. You saw a need, and that need triggered something in you, like a passion to fill that need. And sometimes people, search for their purpose and what am I to do? And sometimes it's right in front of us. What you see, you wish could be better, what you see that there's a need for that can be supplied. But you also took it upon yourself to go through formal studies to find out what the structure of the system was about. The thought process, and you talk about your story about the building, right? It's this beautiful edifice, but it wasn't practical. And so sometimes, things are painted one way, they look beautiful, but the practicality of them, the usefulness of them is lacking, and you saw that. You spoke to something about expectation of the company, and it would seem, for those watching, well, here's an opportunity for you to have a job. They want to hire you because now they recognize that you have skill in something whom they may have thought had a certain skill level. And you turned it down in such a, apartheid was segregationist. You had to live in different areas, had restrictions. How do you turn down such an opportunity for something else?
Well, if I took that opportunity, I'd be still in the same space. I would not have had an opportunity to grow myself. I would be just an employee, servicing or serving the company to meet its own needs. But my own personal need, which I want to emphasize when I took up architecture, I saw architecture as a solution provider in many ways. It's either accommodation or function, or even if it's a park. It needs to serve the people. My mission was to try as best as possible to serve the people through mediums of architecture.
Serving people. I don't know if we think often, Phill, that connection of architecture serving people, as you said, yes, through function, even if it's a part, or these beautiful edifices that you have built that share culture and history, and also provide vision of legacy going forward. Expectations, that sometimes people have expectations of us based on their own experience or expectations of what we're capable of doing or not doing. And you shared that based on what the political structure was, the policies at the time, that expectation actually had a lid on some of the things that you would have been able to do, but you reached beyond. So you stretched outside of your normal, your familiar, where you lived, and you went to school in another country to learn about law, to learn about architecture. What was that like? Well, I'm sure I'm thinking for this, when you tell someone, you know what, I think I'm going outside of this familiar, I'm going because I see something greater or the potential for something else. Everybody's not excited, What was that like, that process of saying, I'm doing something that's never been done?
Yes. This is what I always encourage people. When such an external expertise needs to be brought in onto your space, you need to know what you're getting. If there's some form of diligence that is required. So when I went to law school, it was not only to deal with the understanding of the policies, whether positive or negative. It was to understand the position whereby as an architect as a designer, any client this intent built environment, except which are engineering related. They will speak to an architect first. Firstly, to pick his brain as to whether is their dream achievable. Now, from that position, for an architect would need to begin know almost everything. Become like your general medical doctor who can identify where the problem is and be able to pass it on. But in my situation, I rather prefer knowledgeable in all the areas that environment and buildings. Now, what does that mean? I need to understand the impact of bylaws or legislation that governs that place. So that when I put it paper, I'm within that framework. Of course, you don't need to be a lawyer, you need to be a good architect, but you need to have a good understanding of what is supposed to be done. Then it falls on the public law.
What's so salient about what you were just sharing with us, Phill, is that sometimes people may think that I'm going into one profession like architecture, learn everything about it. But you saw that there was also other parts that come together synergistically for the finished product. So there are zones, laws, policies that are also a part of the architecture, not just the mathematics, right? And the design and build of, people, I think, I want a house, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then you have to say, okay, this is great, but guess what? Where you want to build this house, you can't put this there. Or if you do, it has to be this way. And so I think that also speaks to the diligence and where you are in your journey of forming your company, because you recognize that it wasn't just about the architecture. There are other things in learning. We talk about didactic learning and, the last few years, learning a lot of different things, even negotiation, where you and I met, mediation. These are things even in what I've done and getting a master's in law studies. Some people are like, why are you doing that? Well, I recognize that business is not just tunneled, right? There are a lot of other parts that are important for it. Law certainly is, and how we can do business. Negotiation, you sit down with vendors, suppliers, supply chains, understanding all of this certainly can be beneficial to whatever industry that someone's working in. And you said that it's important to understand the system and to be diligent in your focus and in your studies, because I'm always taking notes, because learning expands great souls. It's an African proverb. But I like that you also saw architecture beyond just the print. As you said, you learned printing early, but it was a solution provider that it provides solutions to human problems, to human need. But your work, Phill, has not just been in one area of architecture. You have cross-pollinated into residential, to medical, mining. Why so many different things?
Yeah. Why so different? Those are built environment things that are driven largely, as I've mentioned, that you need to be. Some people call it of none. That's the best level you can be. But remember, all these structures designed to your bed. It is driven by the people. We design for the people. And that is to give comfort and be able to improve the lives of those people. So it's something that I've not mentioned, it's not listed anyway in my credentials that I also went for a master's in communication. Because what is important is to be able to receive information. Firstly, there's one thing, you need to be a good listener. Number two, you need to be able to process information that you receive. And try to align it with the expectations of your client, etc. And now that goes beyond the building. And you need to be able to identify areas that have been problematic and advise the client. And currently, I mean, I've got a client on a project that is being solved, but when you go to meeting, whether it's fundraising meetings or meeting members of parliament who are supporting it, he would ask me to join me in a meeting wherein I become his soundboard. He would conduct the meeting, but in the end, there's a moment whereby if you sit in a meeting and you're so quiet from the beginning of the meeting, but towards the end, the person who's presiding over the meeting is the meeting. He'll turn back to the person and say, for example, Mr. X, what are your thoughts about what you have discussed? You've been quiet. But then that's when the listening comes. You need to have listened and identified the areas that need to be improved without embarrassing the participants who present the matter with lots of gaps, etc. You simply identify it and say, I do agree with this. However, it can be improved in this particular way. Then your contribution makes the person with the initial concept or idea to feel good and feel that I can rely on this person. This is the person who can review anything that I'm dealing with in terms of my building. And this is where I found myself by default. People call me into meetings, and others, of course, you get called into a situation where, like for example, person can double book himself in a meeting, but he cannot cancel any of those. And then many would ask me, Phill, are you available to attend this meeting for me? I may not know anything about the subject matter of the meeting, but I'll only pick it up by sitting there for the first 10-15 minutes by listening to everyone. And then I'm able to identify what the gaps are. Then I'll participate as if I knew that project or that engagement from inception.
Communication
is key.
Is important.
Look, I teach at the local university, and 2 years ago I was teaching first year students. And I insisted that in the program of teaching, these people are coming from high school level, they write as they write, and worst of all these people are on social media. People are using acronyms, they're using names that cannot be easily interpreted by the reader. So I insisted that bringing communication. Now communication is about discipline. Only. How you receive information. If you're going to process it, you process it and do what with information. And if you're not going to process it, you receive that information, but how does it impact on your knowledge on the space where you are in? So communication is key in every way. Call it domestic environment. Married couples, the marriage goes because of poor communication. But when you look at the facts are real. It could have been resolved by applying strategies of communication.
So communication, it's not just written, it's active. We talk about active listening, and listening not just for you to speak, but listening to take in the communication, to extract it, to process it, to associate it or distribute it, to what you talked about, being able to align your client's expectations, but also, Phill, you want to step further. So it's not just meeting their expectations, but it's also to anticipate potential problematic areas or pitfalls that could result, because again, most times we're so focused on what it is that we want to convey that we're not actively listening. And certainly in negotiation and mediation, those are important things, and it does take discipline to listen. But I love that you said that you've been in meetings where you didn't know what was to be discussed, but because of your logic and reasoning and understanding about communication, your clients have trust in you, not simply because you're able to build something beautiful and functional, but you're actually touching on some intangible things, Phill, right? Some personal development that you've made on yourself that has had benefits into your reputation, building your clientele, but just you as a person, because I do believe that what we do proceeds from who we are, and that it's important that we continue to develop ourselves, to learn, to unlearn some things, and maybe relearn some things in order to have the results that we would like to see in our personal lives, as well as our businesses, industries, and our work. But the impact you said that communication has is about discipline. Communication is about discipline. Can you share with us a little bit more of the discipline in communication?
The discipline in communication covers a lot of areas. Mention a few. Right. For example, if you receive correspondence on your email, it is so wrong to pack it and say, I'll deal with it later. Because there is no later. If you get now, you could have solved somebody's problem by simply responding immediately. And if you don't have a solution that you can offer, that's when you have to end the response and say, let me look at this, but I'll be able to come back to you by the end of business or tomorrow. Now that person is at ease. Similarly, in my profession, I built true support systems wherein if I set with the client and I'm trying to interpret the client stream and confirm that it can be achieved. But where I've got doubts, and let's say for example, it's a problem, or it becomes complex in the engineering part to support the standing building, I immediately on the phone request to be excused for few minutes. I'll make a telephone call at times I make to the meeting and call the safe example that engineer. And even like an example, we're going to a meeting, doesn't matter what program I'm dealing with, whether it's a built environment program or it's a developing policy. At some point, somebody will ask the question, to develop this policy, what resources do we need? What is it going to cost? You need to have that answer as a leader.
So to that as well, Phill, that respect is, or I should say communication is also respect.
Yes.
And so I know sometimes we get a lot of emails. So one of the things, speaking about discipline, is so there are a couple of things. And so, I teach corporate protocol and things, how to respond to emails. You can set time to look through your email, see what needs to be addressed. And I also encourage those who are sending emails, in the subject matter, the word urgent sometimes can be a little bit, there are sometimes that are urgent, but to rethink before you place the word urgent, perhaps instead of time sensitive, right? So if I see the word time sensitive, then I know this is something that I need to get back to. But even how you subject it can help, because you get a lot of emails. It may be something they really need an answer to. So if I see time sensitive or urgent, I know this one I need to get back to. But I set aside time at the beginning of the day and at the end. And to your point as well, Phill, if you're not able to respond, you can ask them, may I get back with you in a couple of days, or within the next 24 hours, or going deeper if it's something they're requesting from you, information that you don't readily have. But again, I think all that is built upon what we call the 3 pillars in etiquette of respect, understanding, and consideration. And so that to me is what you're saying that communication is all about. And in those communications, you're able to, again, bridge other areas. You give ease to the person. You establish also reputation of yourself, in your ability to find information, your ability to communicate that, whether it's the resources that are needed, the cost when you're looking at the project management layout of whatever the policy that's coming or the bill that needs to happen. So it's a lot of things, and even relationship. I mean, you have a firm there, and certainly other persons that are a part of that. So communication has to be important. In doing business.
Perhaps we may be over emphasizing communication is key everywhere. For example, if we need to talk about emails, when you receive it and you're unable to attend to it immediately, I feel obliged. You need to acknowledge, so that the person who sends the email is not in limbo and worrying whether you've received it. At times, emails come in and go to the spam or whatever bank, which we seldom go to. Mm-hmm. But if the person you send an email also expects focus, you can make a telephone call or send an email and send it.
Yes.
And then the person is able to say, I've not seen it, I don't see it on my emails. Can you resend and also check the spam? It's not there.
Yeah.
Because with technology, some communications have got to go via your other institutions because it will be vetted by this. We don't know where do we have eyes of patient.
That's true. And that's a great way to message, especially if you have their number. Send an email, just wanted to check that you received it. And to your point, to say your email is received with thanks, I will revert back to you. Thank you. And again, to put them at ease. And that's what communication does. It helps to put us at ease. Just one of the things. Phill, I'm sure in your life, and I read a bit in the introduction of you that you had a partner, and that partner, you lost that partner. And, the reality of it is in life, there'll be disappointments, there'll be loss, setbacks, dreams unrealized, maybe at a particular point. How do you cope with that? How do you manage disappointment and loss?
Well, loss is a phenomenon. It will happen anytime. But an award was an award. But loss it's a given. Therefore, as a human being, you need to adjust yourself and accommodate a situation whereby if there's a loss, how do I continue and proceed with what is expected of this practice or the business. So you begin to learn the shortcomings. You are in partnership. You quickly know what the shortcomings are. Like when my business partner passed on, we didn't shut the doors. I still continued the projects because I knew exactly what needs to be done. And taking it back to projects that he handled. I mean, not know everything about that project. But as soon as I come in and communicate, then it's quick to understand where you are. You know. So, but it becomes very complex. And also in my life, I don't apply emotions. I deal with the facts. If it happened, I need to deal with what has happened. You know, there are people who get exposed to some bereavement. And something that I've raised several times, and even today with my personal assistant, that even if they say your mother has passed on, which is very close to you than anything else, you need to ask yourself the question. I'm 2,000 away or 20,000 meters away. Am I going to drop what I'm doing and rush back to do what? It's just a telephone call. You phone all the relevant resources to take care of the matters that which you cannot, even if you are there in person, to handle. So life is just like that. But people may think that you don't have a heart, you just work like a machine. But in terms of loss, it's something that you cannot reverse. You need to immediately accept it. Freeze any other emotion that going to temper you moving forward. You know? Because remember, our lives is not necessarily dependent on what we do. It's what we do for other people. So if you drop everything else, you should remember that it's a chain reaction. A person expected an email response today just because you come across something that drops you. They not get the information, move on with whatever they need to do. So it sort of begins to reshape your thinking and approach to life.
So I think of it, Phill, in a way of perspective, how we see things. And as you're sharing, that loss is something common to all humanity, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of field, socioeconomics, education, at some point in life, we will experience loss. But what's key is to, as you said, compose yourself in order to adjust, to not allow your emotions to overcome your sense of reason and logic, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, the person has transitioned. You'll feel loss, you'll feel sadness. This is, human emotion. But in a way, you still have to realize that there are other persons that are connected to you and to your work, that you also have to have some attention to them, as you said. Once you've done, your due diligence of contacting, authorities or whatever the situation is, the work still has to be done. Your life, if you have family or whomever else depends on you, will also. But, to that point too, Phill, that, should you have to take time, some people, it could be even a tragic, situation. And so, they take time off to kind of have that time to gather, to prepare. And of course, for those who have lost family and friends, it seems like, oh, well, there was the memorial and all, but even that life goes beyond obligations they had. If you're a relative, what's bequeathed, all these things. So to your point, there is still the business, if we can say, of life. And so we just have to be careful with our emotions. And and not allow them to overtake us to where we forget all else. Phill, what 3 things would you say have guided your life and your journey?
Yeah. Well, you asked me for 3 things.
3 things, 2 or 3 things that are, this is Phill. This is what I live by. This is my ethos, my mantra, my modus operandi. Yes.
Firstly, what has guided my life is to be truthful in my engagement with anything. Because that truthfulness translates to the very same thing that you needed to do, or the impact you may have to the beneficiaries or people around you. Right. Number 2, not only being truthful, on its back, truth carries ethics. You need to be ethical in what you're doing. Then your moral compass will be facing the right direction. Similarly, with designing the building, we don't design buildings for ourselves, but however, if you look at the world, if you see one building, you see the city of which is another weakness whereby the solutions we provide, they tend to be the reflection of the monuments we want to build for ourselves. Now, the third thing I've mentioned, being truthful and ethical. Right. Those things they give birth to a situation whereby you become a reliable person. When you're able to say no, people will accept the no easily. But you can still help them move forward. I've had clients who want other designs. Having analyzed the whole thing, it's not possible. But if you want this to architect XYZ, they may help you. Because that request, it begins to impact on my approach to anything about truthfulness and ethics.
That's good, Phil. I want to show you something that I have here on my desk. It says no.
Yes.
It's a little buzzer that says no. And as you were sharing, I thought about this. 1, be truthful. Always.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, I can, or no, I can't. And people will come to you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
And also, I'm glad that you showed me that says no. There's nothing wrong when you are being asked. Even if you've got a family, they ask you for some help. If you say no, it gives you time to process that request. Then you've taken your emotions out of it. You begin to interrogate the need of that request. Similarly, kids would come in the morning when you are feeling bad in the morning and request you to find something. The best is to say no, I can't. You get them to think of the fact that their request has been generated over a period of time. But the response is immediate without you applying your mind. And then there are a lot of requests. But you'll be seen as a nice person, but nice is not good enough.
Yes. So always be truthful. It's certainly okay to say no.
It's okay,
because again,
no.
Because of your reputation, people will come and ask a lot of things, right? But you have to be, as you were sharing earlier with the emotion side, to not become emotional. Oh, I'm excited. To look also at the practicality. So that people say, we'd love for you to be a part of this or this. And I'm like, wow, this is great. But I look and I have to say, at this time, there's not a fit. I have to decline, right? Or if it's something you would like to be and they want 10 hours. Well, I know you're wanting 10 hours. I can give you 2. And then you kind of put it back on them to say, okay, do you want me that much? Well, we'll take the 2 and figure out how to make the 8, because to your point too, Phill, sometimes no helps other people to discover solutions, right? That they hadn't. They just go to you and say, hey, can you fix this? But sometimes the no is good. And we see that in business, enterprise, certainly, whether you're applying for something or, funding or something like that. Sometimes you think the no is the worst. But the no actually is something that helps to kind of ignite innovation and creativity, because often we hear that people have been told no. Being ethical in what you do, this is important. Your moral compass, I'm glad you spoke to that, should be facing in the right direction. And that's important, to be ethical in what we do and to be reliable. So Phill, let me ask you, what does exceptional living mean to you?
Now, exceptional living is a composite of all this knowledge that we accumulate over a period of time. Now, I'll give you an example. Some people have been recognized by living kind of a rich lifestyle because they can afford it. And they put it in the category that it led an exceptional lifestyle. He was able to achieve XYZ. Now, we go back now a step down. The very same question to a person who is very needy, who do not have the means, but they tailor their life to meet what they can achieve. That only is one category. It's an exceptional life where it's carried by truth and ethics. I mean, many of us may not have parents, but particularly if you don't have parents anymore. People when you are feeling down and depressed and challenged by other things, of which some parents have been replaced by spouses. You've been on this difficult day, but you need somebody to speak to. It doesn't matter whether you're a millionaire or trillionaire, but you end up in the same position as a person who doesn't have anything if you apply those things of being ethical and truthful. And now just for me, I mean, I've met people who may not have what I have, or which may not have something that is owned by somebody who is much in a much better position than me. But you find that they led an exceptional life. They lived in the knowledge that governs their life.
Absolutely. So exceptional living is not solely about what one can acquire tangibly, a house, a car, or, but that's also not to say that those who have live exceptional or not. But what you're drawing us to, Phill, is that exceptional living begins from within. It's having the mindset which understands the balance of those tangible to the intangible, that things like truthfulness and ethics and respect and communication and being willing to learn and go beyond what you may presently be exposed to or what's comfortable for you can help you live a life that fulfills you. And that helps you, and in turn builds a community and the village, right? This Ubuntu that I am because you are, I am because we are. And that is certainly a part of what it means to be an exceptional life liver. I just made all that up on the life liver part. But to live, I should say, an exceptional life. Phill, what would the man that you are today say to the boy that you were?
What I've realized, the man which I am today, he's not different to the man that I was 60 years or 40 years ago. Because to be at this level in a progression, there was a layer of information, layer of experience, but everything begins to gravitate to the original source. You understand? I may be something to you now, but in the framework of the Phill when he was 15 years old, and this is confirmed those who are still alive, that you've never changed.
Mm. Wow.
So there are no exceptional expectations from me. What they got when I was a teenager and moving forward, that's what they get when I'm a professional. But maybe a slightly polished way, whereby you don't just go out, you quickly read. Similarly, like, for example, all these virtual meetings, etc. For me, they're a huge setback. Because when you sit in a meeting in person, people may not say anything, but you can read the body language. For example, when I sit in a meeting and then the person begins to sit there and slump on his chair, I can understand fully that this person is not here. Right? Now, but with the virtual, we switch off the videos and the person is walking around making himself coffee whilst the other one is talking. It doesn't happen. Understand? And similarly with clients, when we present to clients, like recently at the Museum of Preparation, we built a center of construction in Zimbabwe. At my first presentation, I could see that the client is not buying into to the presentation of the concept. And even when they sort of not approved the presentation, I was ready for that because I could read from the body language that these are the results that are good. Then I need to sharpen my mind. What would be the alternative to get the client on board? When I did the second presentation, it was virtual. But then the setup at my studio was that I'm able to navigate in the meeting. Then you pick up your allies. Those who continue nodding with you should know that they're on your side. Similarly, when you go into the lecture, etc. People can play games on you and just be playing and not even know, and they sit there like statues. Even if you're a comedian, then you find it difficult to proceed with what you're presenting. Because the body language spoke already, but people are not buying what you're telling them.
I concur, Phill. I miss the in-person meetings, especially over the last few years, and I'm glad to see that we're more in person now. But body language is important. And because something you said a little bit earlier about being able to adjust and to adapt, to pivot was the big word. Certainly, over the past years, we had to do that. And that was something certainly missed. But you would say that today's man, Phill, is no different than yesterday's boy, Phill, because it's a progression. It's been a progression of learning, of knowledge, of experience, of wisdom, of the detours, the setbacks, the losses, that all of these have culminated and are still who Phill is. They're all a part of who he is.
And then it takes us back to communication. A mentor is placed before you whether a child. If you immediately respond to it, then people begin to rely on you and say, if you ask April to XYZ, she will deliver. And if she can't, she will tell you at that moment something. Then you are able to refocus. So you don't, let's avoid creating unnecessary which begin to cast out onto our integrity. In my life, I've tried to. Like even today, I get calls from all over the world. People seeking an opinion in this situation, which I'm faced with. How should I handle it? My next question to them is, you've applied your mind, how did you want to handle it? Then I'm able to give an advice to say you need to win around. You don't have to create pockets of negative people because of communication.
Communication is important. And that the man Phill tells the boy Phill. And that importance of communication has followed you and has developed at heightened levels because of training, because of learning, unlearning and relearning. So much, Phill, we have gleaned from today. I have notes all over, but I certainly want to again thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, your experience, your journey authentically, and giving us some sage insights on moving forward and when things happen in our lives, how to communicate, certainly to remain truthful in what we do, ethical, and sometimes that it will take us learning new things outside of what we think is just industry related, but that it can all come back around and work synergistically together in a reciprocous way. And so on behalf of Exceptional Living, I want to thank you and our audience on their behalf as well, all the way from South Africa, and just all the best. And you know, I took note of the African Liberation Museum in Zimbabwe because I look forward to visiting another innovation and creative product.
And of course,
Mashabane Rose.
Now, communication is very key. When I was invited to briefing, I was told by the time we look for you, you can see that you can deliver. But are you able to design for us an award-winning museum? And my response was yes. And of course, it just won a 5-star award through the Africa and Arabia competition. It's Arabia, Africa and Asia. Then it won an award.
Wow.
And then of all the challenges of the project, but I was able to send the plan. Whether I'm still on the project or not on the project. But that project is an award-winning project. If you build it the way I designed it.
Yes. And you have the track record too. So their expectations were high, but you got it done. And looking forward to, and this was right, I know you started this right a little bit around COVID, kind of the back and forth a little bit, and everyone was coming out. So, but tenacity and perseverance and determination and diligence, all of this is what we see now. And again, for those who are watching, certainly a visit is deserved to see all of what Mashabane Rose has built and around not just South Africa, but in the southern region and some other projects. I know, Phill, you have things all over the world. But again, we thank you for being with us today and certainly wishing you all the best blessings to you, your family, your associates, their families, your clients, and all the things that are in your heart to do, that we'll see them and they'll be just a part of your legacy. And so we thank you again for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Phill Mashabane of Mashabane Rose Associates, all the way from beautiful South Africa. And I hope that when you travel to South Africa, you will visit the museums that have been designed and built by Mashabane Rose Associates. I know they were life-changing for me, and I look forward to visiting the one in Zimbabwe as well. So thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. And remember that you were created to live an exceptional life, unique by design. Thank you for joining.